Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever or whenever you are in the world. Today, on this Just the Tip, was another question from a viewer who wanted to know how to deal with POV changes. Now, POV changes can be kind of difficult. Let me pull up my um, document here. All right, so multiple point of views may be necessary to get some plot points or information across to the reader in a way that doesn't distract from the story itself, right? Is switching POV, pull this down a little bit, maybe, pull it down just a hair so I can see it a little better. All right, so switching POV allows the reader to see different internal thoughts or different places where somebody is as opposed to where the main POV is. Perhaps there's some unintended results of magic that the reader needs, but the character does not, or perhaps there's something the antagonist needs that that the reader needs, but nobody else can have because of plot or because of story. Um, but many of these things are clues to direct the reader. The thing is you have to allow the reader to participate in the story, to be able to make guesses, to be able to make those sort of things. So changing POV allows you to give more information or disinformation to the reader and allow them to come to conclusions, and then you can throw them a curveball. Make the story interesting, make the characters more interesting. Changing perspectives can be very tricky, so you got to be careful. But there's two kind of guidelines you might want to follow. One, you should really have a good reason to change perspectives. A lot of writers starting out change for no reason whatsoever, and their choices seem pretty arbitrary. Um, and this particular problem, this approach actually can make a reader feel lost, disoriented, and they're not going to get the impact of the story or the characters. Now, sometimes it is necessary for movement of the story or for characterization. So you need to ask yourself when you're going to switch POV, is this truly necessary for those two items, for characterization or to move the story along? Because remember, if we go back to our little style guide, um, if it's not about the story, we need to get rid of it, right? If it doesn't move the story, we need to get rid of it. So if there's a POV change and it doesn't have a reason, we probably shouldn't need it. Now, the second thing is when you change POV or point of view, you've got to make sure the reader knows who they're viewing the story through. And not just sometimes, but every single time you make that change. Now, here is, 3 or 4 places that you can break and change POV without confusing the reader. Just also keep in mind that you may have to tell them whose character that you've put them into. Now, there's 2 ways to do that as well. You can type in, say, Joe at the beginning of his POV, and then when you switch POVs, you use an asterisk or whatever, and change it to Evelyn or something. That's a little amateurish, although some mainstream writers have used that. You want to, in the first paragraph, show the reader rather than telling them who is speaking. You can do that with attitude, with dialogue, with anything to make it their point of view, internal thoughts even. But mainly you want to do these at page breaks. At the very least, always use a paragraph break, shifting between 2 characters. You can do this at paragraph breaks, Chapter breaks. Each chapter in a story can be from a different character's point of view. The most common way to do this is to head the chapter with the name of the character being profiled. This does look a little amateurish in my opinion, but to each their own. At the end of a line break, if you don't want whole chapters to be dedicated to a single POV, you can use a line break or three blank lines and signify, or asterisks or whatever. Or just do a scene break with just asterisks. Those are the four ways that you can get through. Or you might want to use transitions like while across town, or the next day, or after the storm abated, or is 2 weeks later, things like that. So it is one of those traps that we can fall into, an amateurish kind of thing, where we can look into it and go, oh, wow, we're changing POVs. This is very confusing to the character, and the story gets lost, or the character gets lost, or you're confused as to who's talking. So we want to use them as little as possible, but we do need to use them in order to tell a complete story sometimes. So we just want to be careful when we use them, okay? Now, I would suggest going and perusing through a few of your favorite novels and see how they break with POVs and change those. Most commonly, you're going to see that if it's in third person from the protagonist point of view, switching to the antagonist point of view in third person. In that way, you've got the balance there of what's going on, and the reader gets that information, but the characters do not. Pardon that. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope this helped you a lot. If you have any comments or further questions on transitions, please feel free to comment below. And if you haven't, please consider subscribing. It really helps me out, and we're trying to grow the channel so that we can get more eyes on original fiction. Again, as always, remember that your life is your story. Make it a great one. Have a good day.